Hello and welcome to my personal luxury yacht that if I actually had, you'd never hear from me again. This is the hard sell, where the stick in the swill-bucket rattles back. Today's episode is a special, not brand X. This is where we turn our sights on a single brand, and in this case, a single campaign. One that lasted less than 2 years, generated loads of column inches, was abruptly cancelled, probably couldn't be done now, and arguably marked the beginning of the end of the most innovative and influential advertising agency of the 90s. The brand is Martini. The year is 1995. Before then, here's what Martini adverts tended to look like.
Try a taste of Martini, the most beautiful drink in the world. Is the bright one, the right one? It's Martini. There's much more to the world than you guess, and you taste it the day you say yes to the bright taste, the right taste of Martini. Anytime, any place, anywhere, there's a wonderful world you can share. In the right taste, the bright taste of the right one. That's Martini.
Beautiful rich people doing extremely expensive activities while sipping vermouth and smiling geometrically perfect smiles, all to the famous anytime, anyplace, anywhere jingle. There really should have been a follow-up advert to that one featuring the same characters straining to clink glasses in full-body casts at the nearest hospital, given how much alcohol they were imbibing while taking part in an extraordinarily dangerous activity. By the 80s, the medium advanced to bring forth more abstract and stylized works like this vaguely dreamlike piece starring a pre-MILF Nick. The image is clear either way, right? O-P-U-L-E-N-C-E, opulence. Style, glamour, and the heavy implication of more money than the average television viewer can comfortably conceive. As the song has it, that's Martini. But by the mid-90s, that sort of glamour wasn't selling anymore. At least not to the under-30s, the coolest demographic, who bought the most alcohol. Sales of Martini in the UK went into a sharp decline through the early 90s. Completely unexpectedly, the cool, elegant, blue-chip sophistication the brand exemplified went out of fashion, at least in Britain, an event that Martini and Rossi had never thought possible. Young people in early 90s Britain were mostly on ecstasy rather than alcohol. Drink started to creep back into the youth demographic when the Criminal Justice Act of 1993 decimated rave culture at a stroke. After a brief flirtation with Americana during the grunge era, by the dawn of the mid-90s it was all about pretending to be working class, or if you actually were, pretending not to feel patronised, glugging lager, and yelling. The leisure-suited Ewing oil opulence of Martini wasn't on the radar at all. Worse yet, the alcopop was on the horizon, with Hooper's Hooch arriving in mid-1995 like a bright yellow grinning grenade. Martini wanted some of that young action, lest they become pigeonholed as a drink for crusty, dusty oldsters. They were still cool on the continent, and in America, of course, but they still didn't want to lose the UK market. Britain drinks like it's got a black hole for a liver, especially young Britons. As Britpop rose and cool Britannia became a thing people actually said out loud without embarrassment, Martini and Rossi, or rather Bacardi, who owned them by now, wanted to recapture the attention of these people while they were still at the head of the zeitgeist. So they turned to the coolest advertising agency in Britain, if not the world. Howell, Henry, Caldecott, Lurie and Partners. Long-term viewers, if any, will immediately recognise these people. Anyone alive in Britain during the 90s will remember some of their adverts.
So if you've got wood to stain and you want it to dry quickly, use Ronseal Quick Dry and Wood Stain. It does exactly what it says on the tin.
Yep, that was them. And who could forget this?
If you bank with First Direct, you could ask someone to pay all your bills with one phone call, right now.
To this day, there are people wondering what that one meant. The fact that you're wondering is what it means. But of course, HHCL will always and forever be remembered for what they did with what had once been a bog-standard orangeade, and now, thanks to them, was a cultural phenomenon and probably the signature non-alcoholic drink of the age.
Yes, Ralph, the big orange fellow ran in from the left, and he gives him a good old slapping.
It just illustrates the bite and buzz of real oranges in Tango'd.
Yes, Ralph, super taste sensation, smashing drink, lovely.
You know when you've been Tango'd.
And it dominated the exact demographic that Martini coveted. HHCL's predecessors and Martini's partners in advertising worldwide for a quarter century have been McCann Erickson. They were the ones who came up with the right one, and the jet-skiing, wealth-flaunting aesthetic everyone had come to associate with the drink. The thing high-class international playboys and glamour girls sipped out of glasses with extremely long stems and tiny triangular bowls barely big enough to contain both the drink and the speared stuffed olive.
Martini is.
Somehow, HHCL had to bring this product around to the mid-90s under-30s market they'd seduced for tango via irony, absurdism and gonzo filmmaking techniques. It was the thirst of those three in particular they'd rely on for Martini. Now, at this point I should make it clear that I have zero insight into the creative process at HHCL. Everything I'm about to tell you comes from speculation based on the adverts themselves and articles about them published at the time. It's guesswork and personal analysis, and there's a very high chance it's completely wrong. I will avoid sticking my neck out as much as possible, but take none of this as fact. So my first guess is that it was decided relatively early on not to try and push back on the sophisticated, wealthy, vaguely Californian image. Martini was probably the most established brand HHCL had ever taken on. Tango had been around for years, but was pretty generic before they got hold of it. Things like First Direct or Ronseal had either been launched by them, or else were basically unknown. Martini was a global brand with a pretty immutable image. For whatever reason, HHCL apparently decided to base their campaign around that image. A sophisticated drink taken in luxurious surroundings by extraordinarily rich, fashionable, and above all, beautiful people. It allowed them to frame the flagging sales as a result of intimidation, and that in itself was just the starting point for the campaign, which was known simply as beautiful people. They created a spokeswoman called Gilly Newhead, played by Fiona Mollison, whose natural habitat was the sunniest vistas in Beverly Hills, where the most glamorous models hovered around the bluest of swimming pools. Palm trees and reflective surfaces were everywhere. No expense was spared, as you're about to see, on art direction, makeup and costuming. In fact, they actually credited the people responsible for the clothes at the end. And there's a couple of reasons I can see why they might have done this. First, it's quite possible they actually saved on the budget by having the designers essentially agree to advertise themselves within the Martini advert in exchange for lower fees for the actual work, essentially paying them in exposure. I emphasise that I don't know that they did that. It's just a possibility. The other reason is that doing something as unusual as crediting the costume designers at the end of a 60-second advert stands out in a way that helps underline the theme. And what is that theme? Well, it's why I've been rambling on about the clothes and haven't shown you the advert yet. Because it's a big one, and it proved at least as controversial as anything HHCL had done up to that point for Tango. So, after all that build-up, here it is, the first HHCL Martini ad, simply called Jonathan.
These days, not everyone drinks Martini. Through research, we've discovered why. Although people love that subtle, classic taste, Martini's glamorous image makes some feel too self-conscious to drink it. Frankly, they feel too ugly to drink it. Don't you, Jonathan?
Yes, my face looks ridiculous. That's why I've come to you.
So you want us to perform extensive facial cosmetic surgery on you so you can enjoy Martini?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Jonathan, you look beautiful.
Thank you.
Do you know anyone ugly who'd like to enjoy the beautiful drink? Would you like us to cosmetically transform their head? Call this number. You could look as good as Jonathan.
Thanks, Julie. At last, I can enjoy my Martini. Chin chin.
With Martini, we can make Britain a more beautiful place.
You see why it was controversial. If you don't, watch it again with your brain in the on position. HHCL were being all ironic again. Martini was drunk in the advertising by exclusively supermodel beautiful people, so why not put a dystopian spin on that concept by reading it backwards? Martini wasn't a part of beauty. Beauty was a part of Martini. The dystopian part comes in with Gilly Newhead here suggesting, if not outright assuming as a law of nature, that extensive plastic surgery was what was required. It was topical. Cosmetic surgery involving lots of silicone and plastics was getting a lot of buzz at the time, with the likes of Baywatch having more or less normalised anatomically impossible, motionless, wipe-clean bodies, and the standards of glamour in the masturbatory sense of the word having less and less to do with how people, let's face it, women actually looked, or were capable of looking, and more to do with technological sculpting and airbrushed shininess. If you'd asked HHCL, they probably would have told you they were satirising that sort of thing. And fair enough, they were. As black comedy, it sort of works. Unfortunately, this is advertising. And this might just be where the irony-fueled HHCL learned for the first time that advertising at its very bottom needs to be ultimately sincere, if about nothing else than about its product. Whatever else goes on, it has to end with the basic assumption that the product is good. But their Martini campaign tied their product in tightly with Gilly's message, which was of course fundamentally sinister and evil, and which we were clearly intended to take ironically, not literally. But in that case, what are we saying? Martini is terrible? Or Gilly's actually right? The advert itself rather pushed the needle towards the latter, as did the follow-up, Get a New Face.
Welcome back to Martini's Get a New Face. As usual, our winners get cosmetic surgery so that they look good enough to drink the beautiful drink. On with the game. What is the correct way to drink Martini? On the rocks, straight with a twist of lemon, or with tonic and a slice? No, they're all correct. Just as long as you don't have a bad face. Now, which part of beautiful Adam's anatomy has been cosmetically enhanced? Yes, well done. Welcome to the world of beautiful people and the classic taste of Martini. Bye, everyone. And remember, with Martini, we can make Britain a more beautiful place.
Full marks for prescience, I suppose. This is almost a decade before such a show actually came to pass, in the form of The Swan, which was essentially pure evil, and which I refuse to include any footage of in this programme. Sadly, I can't for the life of me find any images of the print ads from this campaign. But there was one that ran in newspapers with 2 coupons to cut off, a money-off voucher for the attractive and a money-on voucher for everyone else. And at bus stops in London, HHCL installed mirrors where posters should be, for you to indulge your vanity and see if you were up to drinking the beautiful drink. Some of them had hidden cameras in them. HHCL obviously considered the joke to be perfectly clear, and I suppose it was in the way. What confused people was the target. Was Martini supposed to be the butt of the joke? Clearly we weren't supposed to be in sympathy with Jilly in her view of the world, but the product seemed to endorse it. In fact, it and the product seemed to endorse each other. The dense layers of irony finally collapsed in on themselves into a big black hole that then stared at you smugly as if you were the problem. Naturally, this generated column inches, which is what HHCL wanted, what these days would be called discourse. Complaints flooded in from disfigurement charities and at least one neurophysicist, until the ITC had to get involved. Eventually, they ruled that the adverts, while not completely unacceptable, were potentially hurtful, and forbade their broadcast before the 9 p.m. watershed, with a faintly passive-aggressive PS that Martini really should find a different angle for their advertising as soon as possible. Of course, this was grist to the mill for HHCL. They'd already got into trouble multiple times with their Tango adverts. In fact, they just negotiated the Still Tango'd debacle, which is far too involved to go into here, but fortunately I did 3 whole episodes on the brand for your delectation, and they're quite good, go watch them. By comparison, this was a brief stint on the naughty step, and one they'd clearly prepared for to at least some extent. To put it bluntly, they doubled down, making the controversy itself the subject of the next advert.
The nation speaks. Where do you stand on the beauty issue?
Is it really worth it having a facelift to drink Martini?
I only cut the beautiful people's hair. Look at him.
If you don't look like him, you're not getting in. Club uglies down the road, go and shuffle off.
We're special.
Martini, we love Martini.
No, I don't drink Martini.
I don't need a facelift. I'm gorgeous.
No, I don't drink Martini. No!
The tango attitude and aesthetic is definitely starting to show through here, with the gonzo filming of faux vox pops, the overpowering smell of 90s irony, and the casting of character actors from the world of British comedy. In this case, David Barber, the Harry Enfield fat bloke. Oh, and don't forget the phone number. You were invited to call 0990 1996 97 throughout the campaign. Here, ostensibly, to give your opinion on the beauty issue. What actually happened when you dialed is unknown. They probably recorded you for possible use in future adverts, took your address for their database, and sent you a badge for your trouble. And charged you 50p a minute. Another technique HHCL liked to employ was 10 to 15 second supplementary ads that thematically tied in with the campaign, like Jim and his Lemon Tango moments.
It's a Lemon Tango moment!
Martinis took the form of more faux vox pops.
I don't serve unattractive people Martini in this bar. I just ignore them.
Simply everyone's talking about it.
I agree with Martini. Dodgy-looking people should be kept indoors. I'm fed up having to look at them in the back of my cab. Hey, are you blind?
The best ones topped and tailed the breaks, like so.
Martini, it's a thing of beauty, and the people who drink it, beautiful people. We had one fella in, he actually had a bottle.
Despite the carefully realistic filming techniques, or handheld low-quality VT, those didn't really reflect how the country was seeing this campaign. It had been vaguely amusing at first as a satire on modern vanity, but the audience were being made increasingly uncomfortable by the lack of clarity as to just who the joke was on, and perhaps most of all the basic stance of faint contempt towards the viewer themselves. Ironic, to be sure, but with so many layers piled on top of each other as to be ultimately impenetrable, and therefore functionally indistinguishable from sincerity. At Christmas 1996, they seemed to pull back somewhat.
Why not invite all your friends to a Christmas party? Glow's not quite beautiful enough. Simply tell them it's a masked ball.
Again, I have no idea of the actual thinking or motivations behind any part of this campaign, but that Christmas, instead of another big statement, they put out 5 10-seconders, all starring Jilly Newhead making pithy comments on a chaise longue.
Celebrate Christmas with Martini, for it's the time of year when we all make an effort to look beautiful. Even men.
The best one by far was this.
Isn't it tiresome at Christmas when drinks companies drag out their old ads? Surely they can afford to shoot a new one.
Anytime, any place, anywhere, there's a wonderful world you can share in the bright taste, the right one, that's Martini.
Fair play, they managed to find possibly the most embarrassing of the old McCann Erickson opulence ads, with the jet skiers grimacing like they've been harpooned in the thighs. But does it possibly betray a realization that they had it right all along by playing it straight? All publicity is good publicity, of course, and Martini's sales, which had been dropping, did manage to stabilise, even with the 1996 alcopop boom. Still, the chaise longue was the last we saw of Jilly. In 1997, Martini announced that while HHCL were keeping the contract, they signed for 6 years after all, they were moving on from the Beautiful People campaign in favour of more serious advertising. Having succeeded in bringing in the under-30s, they said, they were now going to aim at over-30s again. The confrontational tango philosophy was done, as were supermassive irony holes, in favour of re-emphasising sophistication and glamour played reasonably straight, albeit in a late 90s style.
Oh, go on, they won't bite you, honestly.
You're so jealous, I don't know why.
I don't really want to talk about any of this. You're very, very attractive, you know that.
And so HHCL learned its lesson. Well, no it didn't. A couple of years later they made a similar mistake with their turn-of-the-century tango campaign, which seemed to encourage and delight in bullying for its own sake.
James Renner dislikes the untamed aggression of orange tango. Well, James, we know where you live.
What are you doing in my house?
What are you doing in my house?
Who are you?
Who are you?
I just said that.
No, I just said that.
I don't think they ever did learn that fundamental point about irony. Pile on the layers, and after a certain point, you might as well just be being sincere. The Martini campaign wasn't the first time HHCL's approach backfired on them, or even the second, or even the only time that year. But it might have been the first time they didn't ultimately turn it to their advantage, or at least break even. Both they and Martini gave the campaign up as a bad job after only doubling down once. They did the same with those cordon-tormenting Tango ads in 2000. A few months earlier, the industry-viable Campaign magazine named them the Agency of the Decade, which they were. They'd been the dangerous outsider artists of the advertising world in the early 90s, unpredictable surrealists, professional radicals, as their slogan put it. But the trouble with transforming the world in your own image is that eventually you're living in a world where you don't stand out anymore. Martini wasn't their first failure, or even a failure at all, really, but it marked the inevitable point where HHCL stopped leading. The Blackcurrant Tango St. George advert came out in October 1996 and marked the agency's peak. A year later they were sold to Chime Communications, and by 2002 were essentially absorbed into the matrix. You can't stay innovators forever, especially when your innovation is based on taking the piss. Eventually, you run out of piss. Or something. You just sat through a Bob the Fish production. Nice! If you haven't already, you absolutely must check out bobthefish.org.uk. Literally hundreds more videos not unlike that one, adding up to days worth of entertainment and all absolutely free. But if you're not a cold-hearted skinflint, you can always support us on Patreon. For as little as anything at all, you can make programs like the one you just watched possible in the first place, and become eligible for bonus material such as glimpses of the book I'm writing about the BBC, monthly riffings on random commercial breaks, the complete archives of the angry political satire magazine Two Sons, and even the odd very occasional bonus video essay unavailable anywhere else. If nothing else, you should prevent me from starving and or freezing to death in the foreseeable future, so that'll be nice. No pressure or anything. bobthefish.org.uk. You make it what it is.